Welcome to Writers on Writers, a virtual broadcast of writers talking to other writers about, wait for it, writing. I am your host, writer Danielle Bannister, and this month's broadcast theme is sexy summer stories. And because of that, my guest today is JD Nelson. Welcome, JD! Woo! For those who don't know, you and I actually know each other. We met officially years ago at a book conference, PennCon, and we were sort of on the dance floor almost. Anytime there was a dance floor, we were on the dance floor. And sometimes even if there wasn't a dance floor. Is that, right? Would you concur with that?
Absolutely. That's my favorite part about PennCon. Well, yes. Besides seeing all the people and stuff, just love it. That's the only really the time I get to dance. So
exactly. I used to dance all the time as a kid, go out to clubs and things like that. But now as an old woman, there's just no dancing opportunities anymore. And so pulling you out on the dance floor, it's always nice to know that there's another crazy woman out there who has no problems getting out onto an empty dance floor, not even joining, but just starting the dancing.
The first year that I went, I was terrified. I didn't dance. I didn't. But and then you and Julie Kazar, y'all were just like, yeah, get up here. And I was like, you know what? This is okay. I'm gonna do it. And once you have a few drinks in you, you're like, yeah, let's do it.
Exactly. I mean, who cares? No, who cares? I mean, ultimately, it's your experience. And
exactly.
Who cares what the people sitting down just watching you have a good time feel like? You know what? Yep. They want to be up here too. So. It's that I do really love that con, and maybe one of these days the pandemic will go away so that I can finally go back.
Yeah. Fingers crossed for next year.
No, it's so crazy. So today I wanted to talk to you about sexy summer reads because I know that you write some scorchers, and I myself am only sort of tiptoeing into this genre, so I figured that you would be a good person to sort of touch base with about this sort of genre. But before we get too far, can you just tell me about when you started writing?
I started writing in 2009. I didn't publish until 2012. But I got really sick and I was off from work for about a month. And that was in the day when the Nook had just come out from Barnes and Noble, and I bought a Nook and it didn't have a lot of the books that I wanted. So I ended up buying a Kindle later and getting rid of the Nook. But I started reading, and one of the first people I read was PC Cast and her House of Night, but I also loved her Goddess series because it was more adult and it was more my thing. Right. And I wrote her a letter through email, and I said I wrote her a letter, and she wrote me back, and she was just like, she said something, I'm sure she says the same thing to everybody, oh, you're writing so eloquent, and the first time I got edited, I went, she is a liar, but but she was like, oh, you're writing so eloquent, and she was like you should write, because I told her I'm I kind of always wrote poems when I was younger and stuff, and she was like, you should write. So PC Cast was the one who got me to write, even though I have no idea who I am,
Wow.
but after that I started writing, and it took me a full 2 years to research what I wanted to write, because I changed it a bunch of times, and and then finally I wrote the Night Aberration series, or started the Night Aberration series, and that was it. So
that is
3 years in the making,
just the power of what writing to an author can do. It can literally change somebody's whole trajectory. I mean, if you hadn't written that, and if she hadn't responded,
I probably would have never written anything. Yeah.
So it's important, people. If you like an author's work, let them know. You might think that they get flooded with this type of stuff. Not necessarily.
No.
I don't get flooded with that. And let me tell you, if I do get a little fan mail or something like that, it sets me, it puts a fire in me, and it makes me want to work better and work harder. So it's Never underestimate that. So 2009, you said. So how many books do you currently have published, and how many are like in the pipeline that are just like
I have
waiting?
for the pipeline. One releases on July 9th.
Ooh.
And it's the fourth. It's a companion novel. I have 2 companion novels with the Wicked Way series, and so it's the 4th one that I've written in that. Yeah, it's right there. So Too Cute to Spook is coming out on July 9th, and but I think this will be my 10th full novel. You know, I have a lot of novellas with Havenwood Falls and
stories. You still have to write them, you still have to edit them, you still have to do all the work. So I think novellas totally count as books. But continue.
No, I agree. I totally agree, because you know, there was a lot of research that went into Havenwood Falls, especially because I had to read a lot of the other authors' books just to see what was going on, you know. So
yeah. You mentioned the Havenwood Falls. There's see, I can't. The one that's in purple.
There it is.
It's funny you mentioned that, because you and I both write in the Havenwood Falls series. So anybody who likes sort of paranormal shifters or vampires or, you know, any of that sort of stuff, the Havenwood Falls series is, I don't even know how many books they're up to now. They have to be 100 books or something at this point. They've got to be close to that at this point.
I think that I think my book, A Demon's Redemption, was the last in the regular Havenwood Falls series. I know they have the Sun and the Moon Academy that they've came out with since then, but I think my book was the last one, and then I have a couple in the Sin and Silk spinoff from Havenwood Falls.
Crazy. Too. So that, they have like several different lines in there too.
There must be 100. There must be 100. Yeah.
There's like the young adult line. There's a history line. There's the normal contemporary line. There's the sexy line that you write. It's just, so if you like that sort of thing, you could get lost in that and not run out of books for quite a long time.
For sure.
So just letting people know who really love to read. Now, so the question that I want to know, I don't know answers to a lot of them, but what made you want to write sort of steamy, erotic, sensual type stories? Like, what made you want to write that over young adult or, you know, any other genre? Like,
well,
what appeals to you?
Honestly, I just I have a lot of experience in it, I guess you could say. I know. You know how they say that you write what you know?
Yeah.
Well, I know. I feel like I know a pretty good amount about it, you know. So that's what I wrote, you know. And plus, sex scenes are just the easiest to write for me. You know, it's the other stuff that's just takes forever, and and I go over and over and over and try to be perfect, and you know. But the sex parts are the easiest parts to write for me. And sometimes I write those first and then go back and fill in the blanks.
Right. Yeah. There is that, you know, there is that. So I guess that leads me to, you're saying that the sort of the sex scenes are sort of maybe the easiest part to write. And part of that maybe is the sort of writing what you know. So kind of parallel to that, how much of what you write is pure fiction, and how much of your real life do you tap into? Like, for instance, I might pull the personality of someone that I know, but I'll mix it with the looks of a movie star, and then, you know, take the location of this place that I totally lived in, but mix it with furniture I saw in an IKEA catalog, you know, sort of that sort of thing. Do you do the same thing, or are you sort of like,
I don't base them on anybody. I kind of base them on who I want them to be, you know, because you know, I may have the experience behind me, but some of those experiences were not fantastic. So I definitely want them to be better than what I've experienced in my life, you know. Right. So definitely, and yes, I do mix them with movie stars and stuff like that, you know. Like,
well, because that's part of the fantasy for us too, right? Yeah. It's like, if we're gonna live with these characters.
I always pick out a picture, of what my character would look like, and then I kind of look at him and go, well, what would this guy
Mm,
do? What
mm.
would he say, and what would he do? So yeah.
Do you
And
have
then
a current project with a current actor in mind at all? Like, is like when you write something, you're like, oh, this is totally a Chris Evans character, or something like that, or is it more vague than that?
I would say that my current character, oh my God, I can't remember his name, but he played Alcide on True Blood.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah, he's married to, oh man, I can't remember his name, but big black
Yeah.
hair, like
Yeah.
wolfy type guy because he's a
Nice.
wolf,
Nice.
so
Nice. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's bizarre sometimes because yeah, I'll do that. I'll pick character images, and so they'll be like, a Chris Evans type or whatever.
Yeah.
But like when I write it, it's not that character. It's like it's not them, but it is them, but it isn't them.
Yeah.
So it's like you have the right features, but that's not the face that I see. It's such a bizarre thing. Like, how can we create these images of people that don't exist in our heads? It's very bizarre. It's like you're trying to get a body type sort of match, but the actual way they look in our heads doesn't seem to match reality. It's bizarre. Sorry. Went off on a little tangent there. So we talked a little bit about through how you interacting with the author was sort of a big deal. But is there something that readers can do that help you as an author that maybe they don't realize that helping you by doing this, that they're really helping you?
Well, you mean besides write reviews?
I don't know as readers really understand how important those are.
Yeah.
It really is. Because think about it. When you're buying anything on any platform,
you're looking at the reviews.
You look to see how many reviews the things have. Yep. Is it worth the money? Is it worth, am I going to be disappointed? And if a product doesn't have very many reviews, you think, oh, it must be garbage, or it's just their friends or family that reviewed it, right? Yeah. So it's extremely important. But yes, aside from reviews, is there reviews, please? They really do matter. Is there any other things that you wish? There might not be. I'm just this is your opportunity to plead.
No, not really. Just I do enjoy it, like you said, when they get a hold of you and they go, oh, I love your book, love that, because that really does pump you up and make you go, yeah, I'm gonna write another book. This is gonna be fantastic. But
well, I guess some of the obvious ones for me might be actually buy the book. Don't go to a pirate site and just get it for free, because if we don't make our money back from producing the book, we can't afford to write the next one. And I think sometimes readers don't realize that it's not free to just put a book out there.
Definitely not.
You've got to pay a cover designer. You've got to pay for the editing, a formatter if you don't know how to do it, then the marketing costs that come in. It's not cheap to just put a book out there. So when you don't buy the author's work, they can't afford to keep going. So that would be a pretty big one. And then, I know sometimes people say, well, I can't review on Amazon, they won't let me. And that's true.
Well, that's true. Sometimes they won't.
Sometimes they don't do that, but you could review on Goodreads. You could put something on any social media platform that says, hey, this book was really awesome, I think you should read it. You could tell a friend that loves to read. Word of mouth is gold to an author, and it costs you nothing.
It's almost better than paying for a promotion.
Yes. Word of mouth is the gold standard. If you can't leave a review, tell somebody about this book. If you like the book, tell somebody about it. You never know, that could, it's a starving artist sort of thing. Help feed a starving artist. And here's kind of a curveball question for you, because this sparked this, because you mentioned that the author sort of sparked your interest in writing. If you were just starting out as a writer today, what advice do you wish somebody had told you?
Promote.
which costs some cheddar. So
Yeah,
buy the
yes, it
books
does. Yes,
so
it
that
does.
we can afford to promote. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an unbelievable amount of marketing that comes with writing a book
Mhm.
that I don't think I mean, like I knew that I'd have to market my book, obviously, but the amount of time that you have to spend on
It's
marketing,
very time consuming.
it's like
Very
all
time
this time
consuming.
away from writing that it's
Right.
just, it's like, and usually a creative mind and a business mind are at odds with each other. So it can become frustrating.
It for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: when we're talking about sexy stories,
Mhm.
do you find that they're hard to talk about? Like, I know you go to book signings and things like that, and people will come up to your table or whatever, and they'll pick up your book, and what they're holding in their hands, they may not realize is a freaking scorching hot, story. How do you talk to people? Like, do you try to gauge,
Hey, well,
their
for a long time, the series that's behind you had cartoon covers, okay, and they were sexier cartoon covers, but every person that wanted to buy a book for their granddaughter or their daughter, their teenage daughter, would come up and go, can my daughter read this? And I went,
no, they
no.
cannot.
Like, no.
Don't
So
let the cartoon deceive you.
I ended up changing the cover, because people were getting the wrong idea, and the cover matters. Trust me, the cover. And I know you just recovered some of yours.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing how much a cover matters. And you think that you've got it right,
No, it's never right. Is it ever
but it's
right?
never right. It's
No.
never
No.
it never feels right. Like, so with my two books there, the first 100 Kisses and the second 100
Mhm.
Kisses, now they're nice and steamy hot covers, and they definitely
Right.
relay what the books are about, but they both are not allowed for ads because they are too sexualized. So
What?
yeah,
I mean,
because because her legs are around his hips, they're
right.
implying sex, and the second book is definitely implying some sexual stuff. Neither one of them I can run ads on.
Mhm.
So these are the types of things that you learn only
Yeah.
after you put covers together. I'm not going to change the covers because I like them,
No, because they're
but
great.
it's something to think about that maybe people don't necessarily realize that
It's funny because I have one coming up in I think September. It's called A Satyr's Wish, and it reminds me of yours a little bit, but it's just a guy, and it just has his chest, and her legs are all the way around him. And now that you're saying it, I'm just like,
it may not be allowed for, and
yeah.
you might be okay on Facebook, but definitely not for Amazon if you do
Yeah.
Amazon. Just throwing that out there. You might have to find other ways to market that one. So these are the things we have to deal with. It's
Yeah.
frustrating. So I really, one of the reasons I started doing Writers on Writers is because I really love to hear about how other writers create. I love to like sort of dive into your process. And some people have a very detailed process, and some people are like, it's whatever comes out of my fingers. So I'm curious, what is your process? Is it the same for every book? Does it change? When an
It's
idea comes into your mind, what happens?
idea comes into my mind. I always write an outline, and then by
Do
chapter 3,
you?
I throw the outline away. Because it veers off. Like I cannot stay on an outline to save my life. Like I really can't. But I will. Hey, the first 3 chapters totally outlined.
Yeah.
After that, out the window. Like
you know what? I was the same
out the
way
window.
with outlines up until I would be the same way. I would outline them, and then after about 3 or 4 chapters, it'd be like I'm going off kilter. But it
Rogue.
wasn't. It was it wasn't until I read Save the Cat Writes a Novel that sort of the outlining process really clicked for me. Like, I don't know if it was just the way it was written. It made me go, oh, I see
I need to read that.
I see what I'm doing wrong. So like, I even like made like worksheets because I'm like a worksheet sort of person. So now when I have an idea, I print out these worksheets and I stick them into, I literally have a journal for everything. And then inside is all of the beat outlines so that I have that. That helps me tremendously when writing a first draft, because it helps me remember, did I already have them do that yet? Or because I always forget, what did I have my characters do? That sort of thing. But there are books that definitely will fall off the outline radar no matter what you do. It's like the muse is like, no, I know we're gonna meander here, but trust me, this path is better. Yeah. And you just have to be okay with letting them go wherever. Have you ever like had to like scrap anything major because you went the wrong way?
Yes,
or do you?
definitely, definitely. I mean, well, in the first book I wrote, I scrapped everything. I think I wrote maybe 9 chapters, and I completely scrapped everything. I changed my whole premise. I went Viking. Like I just decided to go, like, I'm like, this is better. And it was heartbreaking because that is so many words.
Well, but if you hadn't written those words, you wouldn't have gotten the other ones. So it's like practice, right? So it's writing practice. So I try to think like sometimes, those chapters are going to go, and God, do you know that time? But it's not wasted writing, because you wouldn't have been able to discover the right road unless you got lost.
For sure.
So it's bittersweet when I've scrapped an entire book before because I was following the wrong character. I was in the wrong person's head. So, it's only at the end going, crap, I don't care about your resolution. I wanted to know that character's resolution. Right. So, I mean, that hurt, but it led me down the right path. So it sucks. How long does it take you to write I guess it depends on if it's a novel or a novella, but how long would you say it takes you typically to write?
It really depends, because I work full time and I have a 4-hour round trip commute.
You do?
So
that's crazy.
So I write during my lunch break and during my breaks, and I write when I get home, and after I get everything else that needs to be done, which isn't a lot of time, because I think I get like maybe 3 hours when I get home before I have to go to bed, like an old lady at 8:15.
I'm in bed usually by like 9:30. So I feel you.
Well, I have to have 8 hours sleep, or I am just not pleasant to deal with.
Oh, I'm the same. I want my sleep. I want my sleep.
It's important, and the older you get, like, for sure. Like,
and it's harder the older you get too to actually get that 8 hours of sleep.
It is. I know. I wake up every morning at 3:00, and you know how I go to sleep usually? I sit there and think about my characters, and it puts me right out, which sounds terrible, but it does.
No, if I get stuck in a plot point or something, I'll go like take a nap, because as I'm starting to drift off, I'll be like,
oh yeah,
that's where that needs to go, and then hopefully you remember where you're going.
I get my best ideas in the shower. Yeah. For a long time, I had like a little dry erase board stuck to my shower wall.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's that the automatic, you're in automatic mode, so your mind is able to wander. So yeah, I do the same thing. I'll get up, just walk around or putter around, do some housework. I'm working, but I'm like allowing the brain to like sort of drift off, and usually I can come up with get out of the stuckness that I was stuck. So this leads me to, I guess, sort of my next question. What are your favorite parts about writing and your least favorite parts of writing? Would you say?
I'd say my favorite part of writing is the sex scenes, for sure, because they're the easiest for me, and the hardest part is, I don't know, I'm really good at dialogue, but it's the background stuff, because you don't want to just have all dialogue in your book, but but just internal thoughts. That's the hardest part for me. Just trying to, my character's thinking, oh my God, this guy is like, ooh, he likes me, and I know what that feels like, but it's super hard to write, because everybody thinks differently, and I want it to be perfect. Like, and that's the hardest part, that's why my editor is waiting on the second half of my book right now, because I just want it to be perfect, and I think that I have it, and then I go, oh, and then I change something that changes something so far back that's why I didn't give her but half of it, because I was like,
and part of making it perfect is allowing the editor to have their hand at it. So I mean, I get it, But it's like, no, there can't be any mistakes before I give it to you, even though you're paying them to find the mistakes. But I need to make sure it is mistake. We torture ourselves as I swear. A question that I have for you, and this may be for readers who may or may not read sexy stories or may not know the sort of different heat levels that a story might have. What would you sort of define heat levels at? Like, is it like a scale of 1 to 5 for you, and then is like a one like a kiss, and a 5 is lights on, we see everything sort of thing?
I would say with my books, I would say the 5 would be something super dirty, like more than just your average dirty, like multiple partners or something like that. So I would say most of mine are like at a scorching level 4.5. But I do have one book that's just straight erotica, and that's a 5 to me.
So you would categorize some books as erotic and then some of your books as contemporary romance? Are those sort of the categories that you go into?
I would say they're contemporary romance, but I definitely teeter on that X-rated, scale.
I have a couple friends who write erotica, or they write that line, and everybody seems to have a sort of a different definition of where the line goes from contemporary to erotic. I've had it explained to me before. I don't know what the right definition is, but I've had it explained to me where erotica is more, the story is primarily focused as sex being the main thrust.
I agree.
And then contemporary romance, it's the story that has
it's the story
sex
before
scenes.
The sex. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the sex scenes that are within the contemporary romance are pushing the story forward. They're not there just to titillate, that they're there to sort of continue the story along. If you took those out, the story would still it would still be a story, but you would miss some of the plot points if those sex scenes weren't there.
Right.
I don't know if I explained that right at all, but that's sort of the definition that I have. So I think I can safely say I've never written erotica. I can say I've written contemporary romance. I even say steamy. I haven't gone like, I don't even know what the level beyond steamy would be. Is there a level beyond steamy? I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, I'm just I'm sort of dipping the toe in there. So, but I write all over the place. I write that, and I write clean young adult. So my poor readers probably have no idea what to expect, when they open one of my books. And maybe that's a marketing flaw. Maybe I need to be a little bit more consistent. But I go where the muse goes, right? I mean, sometimes the muse wants, a rom-com. Sometimes they want, steamy. Sometimes they want just a flat comedy. I don't know. I go where she goes. Are you that way, or do you tend to say, you know what, this is my lane, I'm staying here?
Well, I do stay in my lane a lot, but I do have an idea. Then I've had this idea since like 2013 to write a young adult, and so I started a whole new pen name, had a Facebook page, I have a website, and I've been paying for this website for all these years and never have written anything young adult. But I still have. I even have the cover. I've already taken care of all that. But I'm so behind with the other series and stuff. I don't know when I would ever fit it in, but I still hope to one day.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm also just launching a new pen name is a lot of work. It's not just putting the book out there. You now have to market a whole different personality. So you have to maintain that. And so that that to me would just be like the daunting level of, no, I don't want to. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to write that book, just because I can't wrap my head around trying to maintain another personality. Mine is hard enough. Yeah, it's hard enough. Oh, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about before we jump off and let people go about their days? Any subjects you want to touch on? All right. Well, where can people find out about you and your books if they are so inclined?
They can go to my website. That is probably the best one. It's authorjdnelson.com, which is, but
That's
a
simple
mirror
enough.
image shows
I
behind
know.
me here. And
That's
that you can get to, you can find out anything you want about me on there for
yeah.
sure.
And I'm
Everything is
sure
linked to
a
my
Google
website.
search would produce
Oh,
hits to your
it would.
website and to your Amazon page. And are
Oh,
are
sure.
you wide on Amazon, or are you just KU? Or
I'm wide.
you're wide,
Well, I
so
think I have one short story that's in KDP, but other than that, yeah, or
everything's
Kindle
wide.
Unlimited or whatever it's
So
called.
everybody
Yeah,
can grab a book.
yep,
All right.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm wide too. So yeah. Well, that does it for us. Tune in next month. This has been Danielle Bannister with guest JD Nelson for Writers on Writers. See you next time.